Does Arsenal's Carabao Cup final loss signal the start of a collapse?
Arsenal are the ones in front. If anybody needs to go and win it, it's Manchester City.
Is Arteta to blame?
I can't forgive that. I think that's a really poor error on Mikel Arteta's part.
And do Manchester City respect Arsenal enough?
But almost fans are looking at it with disgust, going, if they win the league with him up front, how's that possible?
On this week's episode of The Pitch, we brought together Harry Symeou, an Arsenal fan, and Adam Monk, a Manchester City fan, to agree or disagree with the questions that you have been asking. Starting with, will the cup final negatively impact Arsenal's title chances? 3, 2, 1. Adam, we'll start with you.
What a surprise. Manchester City's first ever Premier League title win, the 11-12 season. With 6 games to go, we were 8 points behind with no games in hand. And that was against Alex Ferguson's Manchester United, a proven winning machine. Now, this is actually less of a deficit given we've got the game in hand. It's 6 at the moment. Should we beat Crystal Palace, who, let's face it, they're on the beach really now, aren't they? So that game for Arsenal at the Etihad is the one that they have to go and win. And I think that game psychologically for Arteta and that team, it'll now incentivise them and push them to go there and be more conservative and try and play out a 0-0 draw, which I think will play into our hands.
That's where I think you're wrong, though. Why does the team that's 9 points ahead have to go and win the game at the Etihad? All they have to do is avoid defeat. Mm-hmm. So this idea that
this isn't the mindset.
But this idea that Arsenal have to go and win that game, it's not true. Arsenal are the ones in front. If anybody needs to go and win it, it's Manchester City. Yeah. Another thing I struggle with when we're talking about Manchester City this season, nobody's taken away the achievements of Pep Guardiola so far. I think that was what, 18th, 19th trophy?
19th, yeah.
19th trophy yesterday. Incredible return. Nobody's disputing that for a second. But throughout the course of this campaign, Manchester City have shown inconsistency after inconsistency.
Absolutely.
So why are you so convinced that going into the final stretch of the Premier League season, that Arsenal will drop the required amount of points, but that B, Manchester City can put the required amount of points on the board? Has one game really completely changed the way that we're looking at City? Because if we did this last week, I'm sure your outlook would have been very different.
Oh, it absolutely would have been. Don't get me wrong. I'm not denying that. He went for it against Arsenal, almost man-to-man with Zubimendi and Rice in midfield, and it paid dividends this time round. He always gets the last laugh. And I think for those players, it's such a young squad, a new squad for City now. It meant so much to him. You could see yesterday he was kicking the Carabao advertisement board, running the length of half the pitch. That there sets a precedent for those young players that they know now they can get over the line, they can get silverware. It'll bode well for the 7-8 games we've got to go left this season, I think.
I don't think that what I saw on Sunday is enough to completely change my opinion on where the Premier League title is going. And if Arsenal win the Premier League title, I promise you, I could not care less about what happened on Sunday.
You made a point, Adam, a minute ago. You said 50-50 when I asked you about the Arsenal title chart, about Manchester City's title chance. Interestingly enough, though, it's a 9-point gap. For me, that shows somewhat of a lack of respect. Do you think Manchester City fans show Arsenal enough respect? 3, 2, 1.
Yeah.
Why not?
You know, I feel like in the media there's this desperation to see Arsenal fail. And I think when you see that as a rival fan and you don't watch Arsenal week in, week out, just like I don't watch City in full week in, week out, I think it's very easy to fall into that trap and to sit there and say, this Arsenal team's going to drop points, this Arsenal team aren't good enough, they can't get over the line. I think there's an element of disrespect that stems from some of the media reporting around the club, and then that seeps into other people's thinking. And I think I see a lot of City fans online, especially, and I know it's not always the best way to gauge opinion, that have throughout always felt that Arsenal were going to crumble at some point. And I don't know if internally they're feeling something different, but they're projecting something else. But I just think when you're 9 points behind, and I know there's a game in hand and there's that meeting, I think Arsenal deserve to be the favourites and expected to win this league.
Adam, why are you guys so nasty?
Well, come on. I'm not. I said I do show them respect. I do show them respect. Look, I think, this is me personally before I get onto the fan base and also wider football discourse. I think if Arsenal win the league playing the way they have, and that's where it stemmed from, it's the way that Arteta's played. Now, don't roll your eyes. I'm explaining for other City fans, okay, right? The way Arsenal played is what's leaving such a sour taste in the mouth to some fans. Are like, I think Paul Scholes came out and said, like, they shouldn't even award the Premier League, which is a ridiculous take, right? If Arsenal win the league, play in whatever way, the fans should celebrate it, they should lap it up, and they should gloat as well. It's an amazing feeling to get that first one over the line since I was in reception. That's when it was the Invincible season. So I think Arteta's antics have kind of lent towards this, certain complaints after games. I think the first one that comes to mind was St James's Park. Was it last season, 2 seasons ago? Where there was a goal given, it was 1-0 Newcastle, and it was a bit dubious.
Anthony Gordon, 1-0.
Yes.
A bit dubious.
A bit dubious.
There were 3 reasons for that goal to be.
But it was legitimate at the end of the day in my eyes. I think Gabriel, the way that he's behaved at some points, you're going to have these players who are like the antagonists, aren't you? They're going to antagonise opposition. You actually need them. But I think that has riled fans up. Combined with the fact that I think Gyökeres has part to do with it as well. Because I think that he's such a ugly striker on the eye test that almost fans are looking at it with disgust going, if they win the league with him up front, how's that possible? I think that's fed into it to an extent too. Just think Arsenal fans online are more easy to antagonise than the rest because they've not won much. There's no arguments to lean back on for Arsenal fans.
Arsenal fans can be quite defensive online. I think that is often the narrative that gets pushed out there. Do you think that's fair or not?
No, I don't, because I think there's a lot of Arsenal fans online. There's some of the best content creators in the football space are Arsenal fans, and they do amazing work, and there's some amazing
They're talking to one of
things.
Yeah.
There's amazing things that you can watch and listen to. And I think, I think with Arsenal, the problem is that there's a lot of us, and there is a lot of us. And I don't mean this disrespectfully to Manchester City, but we are one of the, if you want, legacy clubs of English football. Ourselves, Liverpool and Manchester United. I say it's United, Liverpool and Arsenal in terms of order of biggest clubs. And that means there's more fans. If you've had 30 years to build up a legacy and you've got worldwide fan bases, that increases your presence online. And the bigger the sample size, the more people that you shouldn't listen to are going to emerge, right? So I just think it's that.
I even think some of it is performative. You look yesterday at Wembley Way, there was a group of Arsenal ultras. They've adopted a culture from Europe, that kind of that ultra culture.
What about the Poznan, by the way? Where'd you get that from?
That's a gimmick. All right, I think you're the host here. You're meant to be impartial. That's a gimmick, and also it looks good at Wembley when there's loads of fans doing it. It's an aesthetic thing, whereas I think marching down Wembley Way banging a drum, that's not Arsenal. And it feels like there's a section of the fan base that are performing for social media. And I don't mean the content creators, the people who do hard work and produce good content. I just mean general videos like that where it's sections of the fans. I'm thinking it's just a bit bizarre.
I understand to an extent. I think this is a little bit of a case of damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Yeah.
So otherwise it's like there's no atmosphere. Or if you do it, you're trying to be someone else that you're not. Do you know what I mean? It's like, what can they do?
This is where I talk about narratives, right? If you think about it, Mikel Arteta came in, he introduced the Angel, the song, that people cringed at the time. At the beginning, I was a bit like, not sure about this, because we've tried it before. We've tried different
songs. Is that the North London Forever one?
Yeah. So we've tried different songs at Emirates Stadium pre-game. None of them have really taken off. This one has taken off. So for that reason, because I see how engaged people are in it, I think I've changed my mind on it. I quite like it now. The Ultras thing is a group called the Ashburton Army who have a section at the Emirates Stadium, and they've done a wonderful job in improving the atmosphere at Emirates Stadium. If people have a little bit of a laugh at us online, but we've got a better atmosphere in our stadium, I'm okay with that. I think football is changing all the time, and I think we're never going to always support the team in the same way. And I saw this from James Benji, tweeted this earlier. If you expect fans now to support the club the same way their granddads did, then you're ignoring the fact that football moves on. So
that is true. No punching police horses anymore or anything like that. Like this in the 80s.
Kepa killed the quadruple hopes, or was it Arteta? 3, 2, 1. So you think it was Kepa, Adam?
Yes. I've been to a League Cup final before where Kepa gave us the trophy, actually. He's got form for this. Yeah, he's got form for this. I think Chelsea obviously refused to come off the bench. Liverpool...
He baited Van Dijk.
He baited Van Dijk, yeah. And he got absolutely done in, yeah. But let's talk about yesterday. So it's a bit of a weird one. I kind of think both to an extent on this, and we actually don't fully know the answer, because I firmly believe that it may well just be in Kepa's contract that he has to start that game. I think for a lot of backups who sign... if they're brought in as the number 2, it's written in that either, I think in Spain it's a bit of a trend with Barcelona. They have a European keeper and a domestic one. Here it's a cup keeper and then domestic and League and Champions League one. It could be that kind of situation where it's just contractually written. If it's not, then it can be Arteta's fault. But because I think it is, I just think it falls on Kepa's head, and it's not the first time he's done this. I just don't think he's a very good goalkeeper, to be quite honest with you. And the simple matter of fact is, David Raya catches that cross. Kepa doesn't at the end of the day. Not only that, there's actually, I watched a video earlier today of Ben White in the game. You mentioned it before we recorded, Henry, that for a lot of the game, Kepa just had his foot on the ball, and people were saying that's to do with City's pressing structure, and Kepa didn't really know what to do. But the out ball was there to Ben White consistently in the second half, and it wasn't played. And I just think that's because Kepa don't have the minerals to actually play that pass, whereas David Raya does. That pass there into Ben White beats our four-man press. And then you've broken the first phase, the first line that City are imposing. I think that feeds itself into the way that we know that the modern goalkeeper is a crucial, integral part of how a team sets up. If you take that component out, it falls like a pack of cards. I've seen it with Claudio Bravo in the first season of Pep, trust me. So I think for that game, if we're just talking about the personnel on the pitch, then yes, it falls on Kepa. If Arteta had the option to not play him, then it falls on Mikel.
Harry, you said it was Arteta.
Yeah, I don't know that Kepa's got that in his contract, so I'm
just assuming.
Yeah, I'm going to assume that he doesn't, because I don't know that for a fact. For me, it's clear that there's a hierarchy in terms of the goalkeepers at Arsenal. They're not close. Raya is outstanding. Kepa is about as good a second choice goalkeeper as you can realistically hold on to at a club like Arsenal, given that your minutes are going to be limited. I just think Mikel Arteta let sentiment get in the way, and he went with sentiment over ruthlessness, and that's not been his way. That's not why Arsenal are where they are today. Arteta's been the opposite of that. And it was disappointing, actually, to see him sort of pander to that, because I think Kepa's impact in the final goes way beyond, as you were alluding to, it goes way beyond just the mistake. I don't think David Raya makes the mistake, but if he does make the mistake, you're not looking at the manager, because the manager's done everything within his power to pick the best available team. But in terms of how we struggled to play out, and Man City's four-man press, as you mentioned, which was really problematic for us, when we had the ball at centre-half and we needed a way through and it wasn't going through the midfield, normally you roll it back to Raya and you let him pick out a pass. And the quality of his distribution is so far superior to Kepa's that his inclusion in the game impacted us way beyond just that mistake. And I can't forgive that. I think that's a really poor error on Mikel Arteta's part. And I think that was ultimately costly in the final. Because at 0-0, City with a better team, don't get me wrong, but at 0-0, you're still in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting what you say about sentiment, because I remember 2019 Europa League final, Petr Cech started in goal when Bernd Leno was actually the better keeper at the time. Did this to you feel a little bit like the Arsenal of old, the soft underbelly that we referred to earlier?
Yeah, and the thing that frustrates me is that, and a lot of Arsenal fans actually think that it was right that Kepa started, and I've pushed back on that so hard, because I just completely disagree with it. I didn't see anyone saying Christian Norgard should be playing because he played in the League Cup. I didn't see anyone saying that, for example, Saka should be left out because he hasn't started all the League Cup games. It's funny how people want to apply that kind of thing of, well, he's been there in the tournament so far when it comes to goalkeepers, but not anyone else, because they all knew deep down that you couldn't afford to do that outfield. Why can you afford to do it in between the sticks? You can't. And it was going back to an Arsenal side where, or a time at Arsenal where sentiment was more important than winning. And if you're going to talk about our style, rightly so, it's not great, but there's always been that justification of we'll do anything to win.
Yeah.
And then if you don't do everything within your power to win and it blows up in your face, sorry, but as the manager, there's nowhere for you to hide.
Would Arsenal's treble be a better achievement than Manchester City's? 3, 2, 1. Adam, that feels controversial for you to think that Manchester City's is more impressive. Backed by a country, of course. Why do you think that?
Well, look, I'm just going game for game. We beat Manchester United in the cup final. Unfortunately for you guys, Tottenham are out. To no one's surprise, but there was obviously the sentimental side of it. Obviously, to beat your rivals in a cup final, that was always a dream of mine as a kid. Really, I remember we beat them in the FA Cup semi-final on the way to our first trophy after the takeover, and I didn't think it'd get better than that. But to then go one further and beat them in the FA Cup final, that was something special. Then you talk about the Champions League run that we had. It was Leipzig, so similar to Leverkusen, but then it was Bayern Munich, Real Madrid, Inter Milan. I think that's a tougher run. I think the standard of Europe was higher 3 years ago than it actually is now. I think you're going to be playing Sporting Lisbon, then Barcelona, who are an amazing attacking unit, but that high line, play Martinelli, you've got a chance. I honestly think it's as simple as that. So I think in many ways Arsenal were a better side when we won the treble than they are now. That might be quite a hot take, but I vividly remember, it's when I worked at City, it was actually the season before, New Year's Day 2022, we won last minute at the Emirates. Rodri scored, but against the run of play, Arsenal deserved it that day. And I remember coming out of that ground thinking, Arteta and Arsenal are serious about this. Like, they're a serious attacking unit. And it feels like 22-23 was was the apex of that evolution of the Arsenal squad. They were very, very good going forward. Jesus had signed. Zinchenko was playing at that point and sort of inverting into midfield. It was an easy on the eye team and one that threatened me more than this one does and as an attacking unit. So I think that title race was more hotly contested. I think you threw Liverpool in there first half of the season as well than this one has been, because we're not great either. So I think the general standard of the title race is lower, because I actually think Arsenal were better 3 years ago than they are now.
Harry, you thought Arsenal's would be more...
Yeah, because I think Manchester City had been winning trophies at that point and had got that kind of status of winning. They've got the best manager in the world. Over the course of Pep Guardiola's time, they've spent incredible amounts of money. I'm not playing the poverty card here, by the way, and saying Arsenal haven't spent money, but they had time to build to where they were in terms of that treble winning season. It was coming, if that makes sense. Whereas for Arsenal, you know, we're sitting here today with people still asking questions about whether Arsenal can get over the line. So to go from the bottle jobs that never win anything to winning a treble just like that, I think that would be really, really impressive. And I take your point that it feels like the Premier League title race is not quite the same, but I think the standard of the Premier League across the board is
I think
higher.
in the middle, yeah, definitely.
But then that contributes to everybody being close together, doesn't it? So I think you can argue that point either way, but I just think Pep Guardiola's Pep Guardiola, and when he came to Manchester City, he was already regarded as the best coach in the world. This is Mikel Arteta's first job. He's picked Arsenal up off of the floor. There's no question about that. And I think if he was to achieve a treble, I don't think he will, by the way, for the record, I don't think it's going to happen. But if he did, I just think that would be a remarkable achievement. And for me, it would trump City's.
Do you think Arteta would be the perfect candidate to replace him? 3, 2, 1. So you both
We're in agreement.
You both think, no, Adam is raring to go. I'm going to wait for him to hold on for a little while longer. Why do you think Arteta can't fill Pep's boots?
I don't think the style would chime with what Manchester City have been for a long, long time. And I think one of the reasons that we're talking about Arsenal's style of play so often is because it's in complete contrast to what people have grown up watching Arsenal play like under Arsene Wenger. And I think that's a big problem. And I think when you're in contrast to what a club is known for and you go against the DNA, if you like, of a football club, I think that brings problems and extra scrutiny. And I just think Arteta is a coach that is constantly adapting. He's finding his way, still kind of chiseling out his own identity as a manager. He's worked under Pep, he's worked under Wenger, he's worked under Moyes, and you feel like he's taken bits and pieces from each one of them. But I think to go in at Manchester City, where there's such an array of attacking talent, a much better level of attacking talent than we have at Arsenal, I honestly believe that. There's then an expectation to play in a certain way, and I don't think Arteta would deliver that. And for City and the fans who have been used to a certain thing, that will be problematic.
I can feel Adam ready to spring out the traps.
Yeah, no, 100%, absolutely right what Harry said. It's yin and yang, ultimately, at the end of the day. Pep's the antithesis of Arteta and vice versa, stylistically. So you strip away personality, sentiment, all of that stuff, and just look at it in a footballing sense. It'd almost be a Daniel Levy recruitment policy. Let's go with Nuno, let's go with a defensive coach, you know, Conte, Mourinho. Oh, let's go to Ange, let's go to Thomas Frank. It's that kind of flip-flop. It wouldn't really make sense in terms of the infrastructure and ethos of the club, because you've got to remember with City as well, and I'm sure it's similar at Arsenal, we have all of our academies down to like the under-12s playing this way now. So you look at Nico O'Reilly now, he must have been like 11 or 12 when Pep came into the club, and he fits like a glove when he then is promoted to the first team. Why would you rip that up to,
Who would you rather have than Arteta?
For me, company, because I also do believe in sentiment to a degree. He's doing a great job at Bayern Munich. If he was to win that Champions League, that'd be incredible. But I like the intensity at which he plays with, but also manages as well. I feel like a few of these players, and maybe, you know, I've got blue tinted specs after the cup final on the weekend, but I feel like a few of these players at times could just do with that kick up the backside, basically, but given the age of the squad. I think Company would fit like a glove, and he is the legend of the last 15 years of this club, so many big moments for us. I don't think it'd be like Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, you know, going back to United. He has got pedigree, Company, and he's growing and developing that pedigree.
Adam, Harry, we'll have you back on when hopefully Arsenal are celebrating their more impressive treble than Manchester City at the end of the
season. Thought you were impartial.
I am impartial. That Arteta coming at the end really irked me. We'll be back next week again. Let us know what your thoughts on all we've discussed here today are. If you like boxing, don't forget to check out The Hook with Charlotte Daly over on Mail Sport Boxing. I will be back next week.